Now, if to be honest with you, I think I would have committed suicide.
From a 36-year-old loser to an international best-selling author, Robert Greene's life is fascinating. After working in more than 60 dead-end jobs in different countries, from construction work in Greece to hotel receptionist in Paris, Robert was able to change his life trajectory very late in life. Today, he sold millions of books in more than 24 different languages, advised high-profile politicians, and even wrote a book with rapper 50 Cent.
Best advice, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Robert Greene. He wrote the 48 Laws of Power.
So if you've ever felt like you're behind in life, you'll want to watch this. We're going to dive into how to make the most out of every job experience, why seduction is a crucial skill, why his books are getting cancelled in Germany and France, the most important lesson he learned from 50 Cent, and the best way to go about advancing your career in this decade. The first time I've read the 48 Laws of Power, I thought that the author went through a lot, probably, in life to experience this dark side of human nature.
Well, my childhood was quite happy, strangely enough. I was kind of a lonely child. I did a lot of things by myself, but my parents kind of left me alone. There was a little bit of a wildness to my childhood.
Robert, at a very young age, had a deep fascination with words. He was a voracious reader, and reading books made him excited about writing.
And then I got into reading and books pretty early on. And just the process of reading books got me excited about writing. Like I wanted to do something similar.
And after graduating from college, he was determined to become a writer, but he didn't really know what type of writing he wanted to pursue.
I thought at that point that I was going to be a novelist. I never thought that I'd end up writing books like this.
So he thought, why not pursue his writing career in journalism? He'll be able to earn a living while learning how to write articles. But just a few months into the job, an incident deeply affected his confidence and made him even question whether or not he was cut out to be an actual writer.
I had written this article. I thought it was a good article. So to hear from him that he thought it was all over the place, that it was too messy, that I was undisciplined as a writer, at first it was a shock. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting in this lunch to be praised. Right afterwards, I was angry, I was depressed.
That reinforced one thing for Robert. Maybe it's not him. Maybe he's weird, and his weirdness and idiosyncrasy is what will make him unique as a writer.
It made me go through a process where I told myself, you know what? I don't think journalism is a good fit for me. I'm going to write what I want to write. I'm going to get out of journalism. If I had stuck with journalism, now to be honest with you, I think I'd be dead. I think I would have committed suicide.
While studying languages in college, Robert was very fascinated by English and French literature. So he decided to go on a journey to explore different countries in Europe.
Took a job in LA. I saved up all my money. I bought a backpack and I just went to England first, where I had some friends. I bummed around England. I bummed around Ireland.
But it sounded more fun on paper.
My money was getting lower and lower and lower. And then I was in Greece. I had no money left. So I had to get a job. And the only job I could get were two jobs: washing dishes, which was pretty miserable. And then I tried construction. And then I just wandered. I came back to Paris, which is my first love. And I was in the Hotel Saint-André des Arts.
Robert Greene used to work right here, Hotel Saint-André des Arts in Paris, as a hotel receptionist. And what's fascinating is to see him move from receptionist to best-selling author in just a few years. It's actually inspiring.
Working in that hotel, one of the most amazing experiences of my life. Most of the people who worked in the hotel were Tunisian. I got to understand their culture and see the world from their point of view, which was very interesting.
And as a creative myself, I learned a lot just by observing people. Currently, I'm in Seville, Spain, and this year I'm really committed to travel more. Growing up in Morocco, living in Paris, traveling between Europe and the US, it taught me a lot. I learned a lot from Americans, Europeans, Spanish people, Italian people. I don't think I have the temperament to go as crazy as Robert, hopping from country to country and job to job, but at least I can do a similar thing on a smaller scale, and I highly encourage you to do the same.
I taught English in Barcelona. I worked in television in London. To tell you the truth, why I'm going on this is I was getting lessons in life about how other people live.
At this point, Robert is getting into his 30s, and his friends back home are getting ahead in life. And he feels like, although he's learning a lot from all these experiences, his career is going nowhere.
My father had cancer, so I decided to come back to Los Angeles to be with him. I wanted to be a writer, and I knew that I wasn't cut out for writing novels. I didn't have the discipline. So yeah, I'll write screenplays. You know, what could be sexier? You're in Hollywood. making money, you're writing screenplays, you're having fun. It wasn't like that at all. I saw many things in Hollywood. I saw all kinds of power games. So Hollywood played a very major role in the 48 Laws of Power.
After this experience, he decides to leave Hollywood and go back to Europe. And even though he couldn't keep a job for very long, he made sure he was practicing his craft and writing on the side.
I never worked at one job for more than 11 months. When people saw my CD, they thought I was insane. They thought I was crazy.
And now at 37 years old, his parents are getting really worried about his future.
I was depressed and I was beginning to get a little bit desperate. I had tried all these different things, all different kinds of forms of writing, all different kinds of jobs, and it wasn't coming together. It was having an effect on me. And I would see people who were selling screenplays, who were doing well, who were making money. In one way, I was doing my own thing, but it's different when you're 25 and you're doing that than when you're 38. Am I going to be like this when I'm 48? Well, that's going to get kind of sad, So I was feeling a little bit of fire under my feet, like something better happened and it better happen soon.
At this stage, he's working at a book packaging company in Venice, Italy. A regular job. And what Robert didn't know was that taking this job will be the biggest pivot of his life.
I never had a plan in my life to write the 48 Laws of Power. What happened was this man Yost and we were walking in Venice, Italy, and we had just visited this old library. It was an amazing experience being in that library. As we're walking, he asked me in his Dutch accent, "Robert, do you have any ideas for a book?" 48 Laws of Power was the first idea I explained to him. And I said, I read a lot of history, Yost. When I read of things like the Borgias and the popes, and ancient Rome and Louis XIV. Yes, they all had funny outfits. They wore wigs. They wore costumes that would make us laugh. But the stories are just the same then as they are now. They may be less bloody. People won't have their heads chopped off and displayed in the middle of a town as a lesson. Instead, they'll be fired. I told him other ideas for books that weren't probably very good, but he loved that idea.
And his friend Yost seemed very excited to help him write his first book.
He said, "Robert, when you go back to Los Angeles, try and develop that idea. I will pay you to live while you write the book and we'll sell it together. We'll be partners in it."
Things seem like they're clicking for the first time in Robert's life. All these experiences he lived in different countries with different people from all over the world matured in his psyche.
But all of these experiences, if you think about your brain as a kind of soil, and there are little seeds in that earth that's sprouting up. I had so many different kinds of seeds in that soil. For a writer, it was the perfect education, particularly for writing the 48 Laws of Power.
And at 39 years old, Robert Greene will publish his first book, The 48 Laws of Power, and it will completely change his life trajectory. It becomes this cultural phenomenon. Politicians, rappers, entrepreneurs, everyone was reading the book, but it was like their best kept secret.
Only book I ever read, I could have wrote 48 Laws of Power.
But the book was so raw, so dark and Machiavellian that it created a lot of controversy.
Were you expecting that it will be that controversial?
I was actually expecting it to be a lot more controversial than it was. I thought I was going to get in a lot of shit for that book. I thought people were going to stop talking to me. I thought people were going to say this guy is evil, and that a big publisher like Penguin would publish a book with chapters called "Crush Your Enemy Totally."
I think they wouldn't have published that today.
You're right. Today, cancel culture, forget it.
Prisons in different states in the United States banned the book completely because inmates used the laws inside the book to gain power over other inmates. All these efforts to censor the book just amplified the mystique around it and made it more successful.
The strangeness of the book, the weirdness and the kind of shocking quality of it, it was sort of entertaining for a lot of people.
The book sold millions of copies and it's still as successful today, 25 years after its first release. And coming from nothing to this level of success can make a lot of people complacent. But that was not the case for Robert. Yes, he accomplished one of his dreams to become a legit writer, but he started writing right away and working on his second book, which is no less controversial than the first one.
Why did you choose to write a book about seduction?
Yeah, a lot of it started from that time because in high school and college, I wasn't very good at the game, but I tried to be good at it. When I graduated from college and I was living in Paris, I was working in that hotel and I was observing a few characters who were kind of master seducers, and I got kind of intrigued by that. And I met a woman in New York, a French woman, who kind of turned me on to the literature of seduction, like Liaisons Dangereuses, which I read. And then the idea kind of gets into your head. Everything is a form of seduction. Movies are doing that. Businesses, advertisers are doing that. Men and women are doing that. But nobody writes about it. If there are no books, that means that if I write the book, it'll hit an audience because people are fascinated by it.
Look, I'm in no way a Giacomo Casanova, but I shared in my first video how much I learned from socializing with people and especially women. But people have so much resistance into learning the actual skill of seduction.
It's not manipulation, it's fun. If you're like going on a date, instead of just taking her to some usual place that you normally take her to, you take her to some surprising location that's theatrical and different and weird, and they're not expecting it. It's exciting for both sides, right? It creates a spark, it creates electricity.
And I never imagined that one day seduction will be a taboo topic in the Western world. How did we become so sensitive?
The art of seduction is now banned in Germany. My publisher contacted me 3 years ago. They wanted me to take one of the laws and chapters out of the art of seduction because feminists in France were upset about the book.
But like with his first book, all these efforts to censor Robert Greene just added to his success. In 2006, he writes his third book, The 33 Strategies of War. And it's after this book that his success will go to another level. One day he receives a phone call, and it's an actual celebrity, superstar that admires Robert Greene's work. But this celebrity comes from a whole different world. He comes from one of the poorest areas of New York City, sold crack for years, spent time in jail, and even got shot 9 times. This celebrity is 50 Cent.
I'm a big 50 Cent fan, huge 50 Cent fan. The aggression in his music speaks to my ambition in a weird way.
Yeah, me
actually
too.
you like his music as well. Yeah.
Very much so. He had a literary agent, and that agent contacted me saying 50 would like to meet me. I didn't know for what, and of course I knew who he was and I was very excited. And so I flew out to New York to meet him. And it was one of those very memorable experiences in life, in a steakhouse in Manhattan, in a back room, kind of like a scene out of The Godfather or something, you know, and he's in there with all of his team, and I'm just this one kind of white guy in there. So I was a little bit intimidated. He liked the book so much and it helped him a lot.
Best advice, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Robert Greene. He wrote the 48 Laws of Power.
And we both surprised each other. He was incredibly charming. He wasn't intimidating at all. He really listened to me. So we had a really nice rapport. We were talking about strategies, etc. And I go, it's very comfortable talking to him. He comes from Southside Queens, one of the worst parts of America. I come from a very middle class background from Los Angeles, you know. 2 completely different people, both American, completely different backgrounds. And yet we had this nice energy between us. Why not tell a story like that? Why not combine our 2 different worlds and create a book together? Because most of the time, people live in their little kind of separate worlds, where you're either an academic, an intellectual, and you never kind of venture out into popular culture. I like blending things. I like mixing things up, mixing genres, mixing people, mixing cultures, mixing races. So I thought this would be a great idea for a book, and he was very excited about it.
I mean, it's a really bold project. Will the project succeed? He didn't know, but they made the bet.
He's also a business person. He knows what works. He's good with marketing. I think his background also, like dealing crack in Southside Queens, helped.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's all the same. Selling is all the same.
The book is published in 2009 and becomes an instant New York Times bestseller. And after his book with 50 Cent, Robert Greene's success will just skyrocket.
After the 50th Law, you had a lot of very influential people that were hiring you for consulting secretly, usually. Do you think like these powerful people have the same insecurities as everyone? Like, is it the same thoughts, same concerns?
Of course, because humans are humans. You don't realize that the higher up you go, the more vulnerable and insecure you are. Do people like me? Am I as successful and liked as I was a month ago? Am I on the decline? Are other people more popular than I am right now?
A lot of people misinterpreted Robert Greene's message, thinking that cunning manipulation is the only way to succeed. And that frustrated Robert Greene so much that he decided to write Mastery, his 5th book.
I wrote the Mastery because I was worried that too many people were like these empty suits that you're talking about, right? That young people in particular were thinking, oh, all I have to do is be manipulative and I'll be successful. No, you need to have this other side.
In Mastery, Robert highlights how prominent people like Benjamin Franklin, Mozart, or Leonardo da Vinci really gained influence, not by power games, but by mastering a skill. He emphasizes the 10,000 hour rule. Being highly skilled at one area or combining different areas in a unique way is what will make you ultimately powerful.
Putting those two books together would create a monster of power. Yes, you need to have skill. Yes, you need to learn discipline and patience and become very good at something. But chapter 4, you also have to master the social game.
A lot of us are looking for quick tips and shortcuts to get to the next level. But the only shortcut is the long way. And when you look at Robert Greene's life through that lens, that's exactly how he succeeded.
I only was good at writing, so I specialized. But within that framework, I tried a million different things.
He combined writing with his interest for history, psychology, seduction, to write perennial books that change the culture and that will probably stand the test of time.
I tell people that that is the secret to success in the 21st century. Because look, you have the internet. Soon you're going to have AI and all the things generated through AI. You have this wealth of knowledge at your disposal. The future is in taking all of that and combining them into something different that no one has thought of before. It reflects you and your own specialness, your own weirdness. And that's where power lies.
So if you ever feel like you're behind in life, maybe you're in your late 20s or early 30s, then I think that Robert Greene's life is a fascinating and one of the best examples you can have on how to turn your life around.
You made it at, 39 years old is when you start seeing your first success. What do you think about people from my generation, maybe at 27, 28, thinking they're like behind in life because they didn't make it yet?
There are two different versions of the 29-year-old. So 29-year-old A is somebody who kind of messed around during their 20s. They just had fun, they partied, they traveled. They didn't really take life very seriously. They never learned anything well enough. And here they are 29, they don't really have any skills. They're facing a job market that's very competitive. It's very hard now, you're 29 years old. What am I gonna do? Well, you're in a little bit of trouble because you didn't take life seriously. Then you have 29-year-old B who also traveled, also had some affairs, did some seductions, had some interesting experience, but he or she took it seriously and they go, I'm going to learn some skills. I'm going to go to develop myself at this job. I'm going to create a startup. I'm going to create my own podcast. If it fails, I will have learned. And I'm young enough that I can take that learning experience and turn it into something. Now I'm 29. I haven't really had success, but that's okay. I've got all these ideas and skills, and now I'm about to turn 30 and I'm going to kick some ass. Great. If you're 29-year-old A, all right, it's a little bit of a problem, but it's not too late because I was 39. But you better get in a hurry. You better go. It's get rich or die trying time. So wake up and smell the coffee and get to work and start learning some skills. You do want to have fun. You do want to have adventures. You do want to explore. You do want to try different things. On the other hand, you also have to take life seriously and realize life is shorter than you think. So that's, to me, the recipe for success.
But as cheesy as it may sound, it's all about the process. Being patiently aggressive, executing with urgency while being patient for the outcome that may or may never come. But that's for another video. If you like this video, you may like this one too, and I'll see you in the next video.